Well, welcome everyone and welcome to our council meeting tonight, April 2nd. Anybody get caught in any April Fool's jokes? No. The 15th meeting of the 144th Council of the Corporation of the City of St. Thomas is tonight. And I'll ask, is there any disclosures of interest from any of the members? Seeing none, we'll move on to minutes.
I have a motion that the minutes of the meetings held on March 18th, 21st, and 25th, 2024 be confirmed. Moved by Councillor Baldwin Sands, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next order of business are deputations. We have one deputation this evening. Michelle Radowskis and Carol Ashford are present and will provide a PowerPoint presentation relating to a shipping container at 76 Fairview Avenue. The members have also received some materials as an attachment to this presentation.
Well, welcome. Thank you for coming tonight. We'll be watching your deputation. You have 10 minutes. If you'd like questions or answers from council, you'll need to finish before that 10 minutes. But please go ahead. I'll give you some warnings as we get closer to your time.
Thank you very much, Mayor and council members. I am going to ask for a little bit of grace, Your Honor, because I practiced in presentation view and that doesn't work in Zoom. So I'm going off papers and just a little bit of grace will be appreciated. So yes, my name is Michelle Radowskis and this is my neighbor Carol Ashford. And we live at 30 and 32 Kavanaugh Crescent for the last 29 and 12 years respectively. Last November 2023, our backyard neighbor placed a used unaltered shipping container along our shared property lines. This is a closer view for you from our backyards. The objective of our presentation today is the removal of the shipping container at 76 Fairview Ave, St. Thomas, Ontario. The installation of this shipping container has potential health and safety impacts for anyone who lives near the shipping container. It affects the property values of neighboring properties, and it results in a decrease in the ability for us to enjoy our homes and backyards because it is in direct view of our homes and backyards at all times. So we've done some extensive research and we have provided a lot of documentation to you. We can't nearly touch on only a mere part of that tonight, but we do ask that you look at it and consider it in your discussions and in your decisions related to this shipping container and this situation. We have significant concerns with the shipping container being placed so close to our residential homes because of the potential for explosion, lead particles, and toxic pesticides being released into our environment, and the potential for tipping onto our properties. Shipping containers are built strongly and well sealed with little to no ventilation to protect cargo from ocean conditions. That's what they're built for. When used for alternative storage, an explosion can occur within a shipping container with any combination of heat, small volumes of flammable, varying levels of oxygen, and some sort of ignition. In our documentation, we provided 4 examples of explosions that have occurred across Canada when shipping containers were used for storage. These explosions have resulted in the death of a fire chief, extensive burns to several individuals, and property damage. And they were caused by various combinations of flammables and ignition sources. As a result of the explosions in British Columbia and in Sudbury, Ontario, there were several reports released, and we've included them in our documentation as appendices A, C, and D. I'd like to read to you the key finding from the Sudbury report. That's Appendix D, and it was issued in August 2023. There are legitimate safety concerns related to the use of a shipping container as an accessory storage building. This is an issue that extends beyond zoning compliance to a matter of public safety. Notwithstanding the above, shipping containers may be repurposed for an alternative use, provided a building permit is issued to address life safety concerns, including proper ventilation, structural safety, explosion protection, adequate ingress or egress, proper anchorage, snow loading, and other matters. In front of you, you have a diagram of a hot zone, and this was brought up in the Fire Chiefs Association of British Columbia position paper, Appendix A. As you can see, the hot zone for this shipping container encompasses both of our homes, plus others on Kavanaugh Crescent and about 4 homes on Fairview Ave, and the explosive zone, so the end from where the direction of the door reaches almost to Chestnut Street. The explosion would affect homes and mature trees and any persons, structures, or objects hit by the blast within this hot zone. Shipping containers behave like a closed vessel by design. They must be viewed as a potential bomb. This container is in a high-density area. There's an elementary school across the street. It is on a major arterial road through St. Thomas. The damages of the shipping container exploding would be catastrophic and widespread. Who would be liable for the damages, injuries, potential death if an explosion was to occur? With respect to lead contamination, the marine grade exterior paint on shipping containers can release microscopic particles of lead, cadmium, and other toxic metals. Lead contamination can cause anemia, brain, and nerve system damage. There are no safe levels of lead exposure. Tests on paint chips from shipping containers have found that they are highly contaminated, and these metallic elements are known to induce multiple organ damage. They are carcinogens. In addition, the floors are impregnated with pesticides and other chemicals to prevent vermin, insects, and the growth of mold. You cannot remove these pesticides and other chemicals by hosing down the interior of the container, using a power washer, sandblasting. You have to remove the floor off-site, or you have to purchase a new shipping container without a floor. Those methods, the sweeping, the hosing, they just release the chemicals into the air and the soil. The release of these toxic metals and chemicals will cause air and soil pollution, affecting the local ecosystem and causing potentially dangerous health situations for our diverse neighborhood, which includes children, the elderly, the ill, and pets. According to the Ontario Building Code, a shipping container is considered a building. The St. Thomas Building Standard, section 4.1.1, states that every structure shall be supported by a foundation capable of safely supporting its intended use. It is our understanding that the shipping container at 76 Fairview Ave is placed on concrete pavers. This is a concrete paver that is underneath Mrs. Ashford's bird bath in her backyard, and you can see that it is cracked after 2 years of the frost thaw process that we endure in southwestern Ontario. It is our opinion that the shipping container at 76 Fairview Ave is not placed on an appropriate foundation. It's not placed on a permanent foundation and therefore remains a temporary installation. As you can see from these photos, the shipping container at 76 Fairview Ave is not placed in a level position. It is leaning towards the north, towards the door end. Shipping containers must be secured and anchored to a permanent foundation to ensure that the container cannot slide laterally or be lifted off of the foundation. In this specific situation, as it continues to lean towards the doors, the heavy door end, there's a risk of racking, lifting, and overturning. Since it is already on higher ground above my property, there is a very high probability that it could tip onto my property, causing property damage and potentially injury. We reported the presence of this shipping container to the city immediately upon its arrival, and we have been seeking its removal since the start. We have been told repeatedly that the shipping container will remain in place. We received an email from Angelo DeSico on February 1st of this year, and I'd like to bring your attention to the last 2 sentences. He is saying that there will be future changes that may not allow shipping containers in residential zoning, but that the changes will not be retroactive to this specific container. We argue that until changes are made, bylaw section 3.3.5 should have been adhered to. And if Mr. DeSico is referring to grandfathering of this container, I would like to quote in his words, there was a lack of specific language to deal with shipping containers in terms of restrictions or prohibitions in certain zones. This specific container was placed at 76 Fairview Ave despite a lack of specific language, not because of a rule. This is not a case for grandfathering. We feel we have no rights regarding the installation of this shipping container, even though it is our health, our safety, and the enjoyment of our properties that is at risk due to its placement. Respectfully, we ask, is this what we want for our city? To have shipping containers of various states of degradation placed in residential neighborhoods? According to local real estate agents, the value of our properties is significantly impacted, and the shipping container is a deterrent to prospective buyers. A review of property standards and bylaws in local municipalities shows that most municipalities around St. Thomas do not allow shipping containers to be used on a permanent basis as a building in residential neighborhoods. We respectfully request that the shipping container currently located at 76 Fairview Ave be removed by order from the City of St. Thomas, and that the city staff and council endeavor to ensure that shipping containers cannot be placed in residential neighbors through updated bylaws or zoning. We personally and our properties are exposed to unhealthy contaminants, danger of explosion, and a shipping container rolling into our backyard. We refuse to sit back and allow this to happen. We are worried about our health and our safety. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you very much for your deputation this evening. We have used all of the time for deputation, so I can't ask for questions from council, but I will ask council, is it okay if we refer this to staff for a report back to council?
If I could just have a mover and a seconder, moved by Councillor Wookey, seconded by Councillor Herbert.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you very much for coming and joining us tonight. The rest might be quite boring. So we do allow you to leave if you want. We love an audience, but we don't get one very often live. Thank you.
Your worship, at this time, council will resolve itself into committee of the whole to deal with the following business.
Great.
First committee is strategic direction and development. There are no items currently on the agenda unless there are any items that the members wish to bring forward under this committee.
Seeing none.
We'll move to community engagement and services. First item relates to a request for road closure by the Mocha Shriners for its spring ceremonial. I have a motion that report ES 1624 relating to Mocha Shriners spring ceremonial road closure request be received for information, and further council authorize the temporary closure of the Wellington Street between Hinks and Queso Crossing / 3rd Avenue. Queso Crossing from Wellington to the south access point of the Joe Thornton Arena, and Hinks Street from Wellington Street to just north of Mitchell Street on Saturday, June the 1st, 2024, between the hours of 1:30 and 3:30 to allow for the Mocha Shriners spring ceremonial. And further, that staff ensure access for emergency vehicles be maintained at all times through the closures. Moved by Councillor Herbert, second by Councillor McCauley.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Your worship, unless there are any further items for this committee from the members, we'll now move into infrastructure and civic operations. First item relates to tender award for J.C.'s pool upgrade. I have a motion that report PRF 1524 relating to J.C.'s pool upgrade tender award be received for information, and further the council approve the award of 2024-024 J.C.'s pool upgrade to PPL Aquatic Fitness and Spa Group Inc. in the amount of $390,000 plus HST, and further the council authorize accessing the additional $30,000 from the infrastructure reserve to complete this project. Moved by Councillor Kohler, second by Councillor Gibson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I was glad to see that the work is to be completed by June 3rd, so it doesn't interrupt with swimming season. Just wonder if there's any penalties if that date isn't met.
Mr. Bray, good to have you tonight.
Thank you, Mayor Preston. Through you to Councillor Clark, penalties have not been stipulated, no. But we have discussed with the contractor the importance, and they understand they have to mobilize immediately.
Councillor Gibson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Jeff, I was just wondering if there's going to be a separate project at 20,000 for the exterior, and or was it in our previous budget, or will it be coming forthwith? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Preston. You've been elevated.
Okay.
Mayor Preston, that'll be a separate project, and it will be accounted for within the additional recommendation of 30,000.
Councillor Baldwin Sands.
Thank you. And thank you to the staff for this report. We did major upgrades back in about 2010 for J.C.'s Pool because it was built in 1970, and we kicked the can down the road from about 2006 to 2010, and it really escalated the price of doing this. That's why I fully support continuous operational expenses as well as the work that needs to be done currently that you have expressed. The pool is 54 years of age, and it is the only pool that we now have in the community that is a city-owned and operated pool. So how long are these upgrades are expected to last is my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor
Thank you.
Preston. The filters should last for another 10 years. They've outlived the existing filters, as you've noted, are well past their life cycle. The other upgrades, the coping tile, probably about the same with our freeze thaw we experienced through the winter. The siding would exceed 10 years.
Excellent. Further questions or comments? Councillor Herbert. I thought I saw your
Yeah,
hand.
you didn't know. Thank you. Councillor Baldwin Sands gave my exact question. How long before the next upgrades? But thank you very much. Thank you.
Wow. Councillor Herbert didn't ask it. No, never mind. Thank you, Jeff. Further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to the Yarmouth Yards 2024 projects for contract administration and site inspection services. I have motion that report ID 0924 relating to the contract administration and site inspection services Yarmouth Yards 2024 projects be received for information, and further that the work plan submitted by Arcadis Professional Services Canada, Inc. in the amount of $1,558,662.82, excluding HST, be accepted. Moved by Councillor Wookey, second by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments? Councillor Gibson.
Yes, in the second paragraph, it continues from page 1 to page 2. I'm quoting from the page there. The proposed work plan falls within the expected percentage of construction costs. Are they proceeding extra costs, or are we to have more come forth to us on this project?
Great. Mr. Lawrence. A rare special appearance.
Happy to be here. So what we're trying to convey in that sentence is that there's a percentage that you can apply to the total capital cost that gives you a ballpark of how much the contract administration cost would be. So in this case, these projects total about 60 million. So the CA work, the contract administration, is about 1 to 2%. So it falls within that range. There's no extra costs on top of this that are anticipated. This should cover everything for the CA work for all the 3 of those projects. Okay.
Councillor Clark.
Thank you. I noticed that the contract is for the work to be done in 2024. So I'm assuming that the whole project will be done in 2024, or is that ambitious?
No, it's a good question. In some of these projects actually carry over into 2025, and this amount includes the cost to carry over. So the rail project, for example, won't be done till June 2025, and the CA work includes till the end of that. The RED project, which is Yes One, that will go also into 2025. And the booster station as well, that'll go into the summer of 2025. So it's about a year and a half of work for each of the three.
Further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to the intercommunity transit service pilot. I have motion that report ES 1824 relating to the intercommunity transit service pilot be received for information, and further that council authorize option 1A of providing an additional half hour of citywide on-demand service for Saturday mornings from 8:45 to 9:15 a.m. as contained in report ES 1824. Moved by Councillor McCauley, seconded by Councillor Wookie.
Questions or comments? Councillor McCauley.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I want to commend staff for the report and finding opportunities to fill gaps in service. I found the report a little bit confusing, just that the recommendation is providing an opportunity to fill the gap in service by offering on-demand and service between 8:45 a.m., 9:15 a.m. for a cost of $1,300. And the way I read the report is that there are several gaps in service, and this is the one we've decided to fill. But I just want to make sure everyone that is listening and my compatriots here that really all hours are being filled with the exception of this Saturday. And I just want to make sure that I understand the report in that currently we are able to meet all of the connectivity with the exception of Saturday morning. The other options that were listed were merely just to augment an existing service. It's not that there isn't service. So I just wanted to get clarity on that. Thank you.
Mr. Dilovic, you're here. Please help Councillor McCauley with that. I agree with what she said. So let's go there. We stuck the only gap that was there. We have other things we'd like to do more of, but this is a pilot project moving forward.
That's exactly right. Mayor Preston, through you to Councillor McCauley. Your interpretation is correct. The additional options highlighted or presented in the report are to provide further enhancement. But currently, the only service gap that we have is on Saturday mornings. And so the other services that we provide is our on-demand service, which provides service to work with the intercommunity transit pilot. So the scheduling has been set up so that if you want to get onto the intercommunity transit service, you can do so. And make sure you're at the transit hub just before its departure time. So that works for all weekdays. And with this resolution, provided supported by council for Saturdays as well, for the pilot program. We'll see what the success rate is of the pilot program, and then we'll be able to report back afterwards.
Councillor Gibson.
I was just wondering if by chance we could, staff could initiate a survey as this goes on, because it's only a pilot project for 1 year. I just would like to hear from our ridership. Maybe if we had an ongoing survey that they can click on and just give us their input so that we will know in the future exactly what our residents want. Are we doing enough? Yep. I mean, it's been 25 years. I've been running for city council 20, and here I am, and we're still talking about getting everybody on this motion to be on a bus. So I was just wondering if that could be part of the solution to find out exactly what our residents want.
I would expect, I'll ask Mr. Dilovic, but I would expect that part of our strategic plan also has further improvements to transit. And we'll remind the people at home that using customer service is a great way to get instant feedback back. But let's ask Mr. Dilovic, are we looking for a future survey on transit?
Through you, Mayor Preston, to Councillor Gibson. Our partner with Middlesex County is the driver for this intercommunity pilot project. So we can work with them to see if they are looking to do any type of survey work. I can suggest that as part of our transportation master plan refresh, when we start to look at some of the transit service, we could look at those types of pieces. But I would want to know exactly what we're trying to gain out of the survey so we can craft the questions appropriately so we can use that information to inform our decisions. And so with that, we can ask a survey, but I'm pretty sure everyone would say, yes, I would love service from St. Thomas to London. Like you said, this is something that has been desirous for many years.
Councillor Kohler?
Thanks, Your Worship. Really looking forward to this pilot project. And the question I have here, it really has not much to do with the report other than the on-demand, but people had seen the report that was coming forward and they did call and we're talking about how the on-demand service works. And we're wondering if this would still work in conjunction. And it didn't really make sense to me, but they were saying that the way the on-demand works, that they have to be ready for their ride 15 minutes before and 15 minutes after. I could see if the 15 minutes after, because if the service is running late, sometimes, you know, so be expected to maybe wait 15 minutes, but they're saying that they're actually missing rides because the bus was there 15 minutes before their projected pickup time, which really doesn't work too much. And I've even had this same thing with paratransit where they're saying that they've come 15 minutes early and they're at a doctor's appointment and the bus left and they're still in their doctor's appointment. So I could see the 15 minutes after, but I question the 15 minutes before. And I don't know if that can be answered tonight, but if it could get back to us, if that's actually in the process that people should be expected to be 15 minutes there before their time as well.
Mr. Delick, I don't know if you can answer that directly tonight, but if not, we can get an answer back to Councillor Kohler, but I understand the gap in time. That's a fairly good gap, and let's ask whether it has to be that wide.
Yes, certainly, through Mayor Preston to Councillor Kohler. If there are any specifics, we can look into those specific issues that constituents may have raised and get back to you so you can get back to them. But I can say we do need some flexibility in scheduling because what we try to do is plan a route in order to pick up everybody and get them to their destination on the time that they've requested. So sometimes that means we need to be there a bit earlier than the stop time, or sometimes that means we're a little bit later than the stop time. It's all about the coordination and depends on the demand for that particular trip. And so I would see it personally as a good situation if we're having a lot of demand for on-demand service. That means we're probably approaching the piece where we need to seriously consider moving to more of a regular route through that area, if that happens to be the case. So it'll all come back down to seeing what the utilization of the on-demand service is as we roll this pilot program out.
Super. Thank you, Councillor McCauley. And thank you still, but yes.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to that point though, and to add to Councillor Kohler's, if there is a timeframe, and I agree that on demand, there may be a bit of a wait, but as long as it's important to note that you're not missing that connection that comes at 7:05, 7:11 or 7:15 in the morning. Just as long as, you know, we're not missing that important connection. And just as I was reviewing this a little more in depth, I got down a little bit of a rabbit hole. Actually, I was looking at all of the, this is kind of outside of this report, but it's an observation I made, and understanding that Middlesex is the lead on this pilot. But in what I've noticed is there does seem to be a gap for those early morning shifts. So it's leaving Dorchester at 6:10 a.m. and arrives in St. Thomas at 7:05 a.m. So if there are employees that working in manufacturers, industrial, or medical that have to be for a 7 a.m. shift, or students who have to be post-secondary, you know, early morning, it does have some drawbacks. So realizing this is a pilot and we're gathering information, but it is just an observation that I made that we may want to consider on a bigger picture when working with Middlesex on the pilot.
Oh, and clearly in our conversations with them, in order to establish this, that's been the case. But we need to hear from the ridership. If you need an earlier bus, please be letting us know, and we could certainly, if there's enough ridership, make it happen. But we needed to, this is a pilot project that has to end up at the end of the day paying for itself by ridership. So great, let's hear from everybody on the times, the places, the cost. I think $5 fare will come out pretty positively, but let's hear from everybody we can. Councillor Herbert.
Thank you, Worship. Well, this is a great project and it's been long overdue. And like anything new, there's going to be some bumps in what happens with it. But so I think personally for myself, I think I'm going to get up at 7:15 or 7 and take the bus ride, take the one to door. And I'll follow up with some of the riders when I'm on and get some comments, firsthand comments, and report back to you.
Well,
When I get back.
Being on the first bus, leaving St. Thomas on
I can't be April 8th.
on April the 8th.
But I will get on it. So anyway,
Right.
we just need to ride it to understand it,
Yeah,
you know. So anyway,
thanks. Further questions or comments on this one? Councillor Gibson, did you have, no? All right, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to a tender award for the Yarmouth Yards Rail Spur and Bridge. A motion that report ID 1124 relating to the Yarmouth Yards Rail Spur and Bridge tender award be received for information, and further the council award the Yarmouth Yards Rail Spur and Bridge tender award to Amico Infrastructures, Inc. in the amount of $12,323,064.97, excluding HST. Moved by Councillor Wookey, seconded by Councillor Clark.
Questions? Councillor Herbert?
thank you, Worship. I think this is the place we had quite a 10-page report from a concerned citizen that we should be having two rails instead of one. And I see Mike had answered it, but is it really merit in that to have two? I'm not sure from what he was, I'm not sure who can answer that. Oh, Justin? You wanna
Justin
take a
can.
shot at it?
Okay, Mr. Lawrence, rush to the podium. We know he has the answer.
Thanks. So I think your question is, can the Yarmouth Yards subdivision be served by two rail yards? Several lots can be served by CP, but generally CP is much lower than, so if you think about CP across as Highbury, that's about 10 meters lower than what the Power Coast site is at. So it'd be very difficult to get that rail up to the subdivision in time. So in the early days of planning this subdivision, we found that CN was an easier in terms of vertical integration. So CN is the easier line to hook in. In the future, it's possible that that CP could be connected in the north, depending on what happens north of Ron McNeil line.
Thank you. Just to follow up. So if you do it in the future, would the cost not double to do it, or would it be easier to do something now or looking forward to the future? Or just leave it with, as you're saying, one line?
Lawrence?
It would be equally as challenging in the future because of the grade. So the only chance, the reasonable chance to connect CP is if the rail continued north of Ron McNeil line some distance and then spurred off and came back down into the subdivision. But that's that's a large concept. It's outside of St. Thomas. It just wasn't feasible initially, but it's always an option for the future.
Councillor Wookey?
Thanks, Your Worship. Mr. Lawrence, we talk a lot about railway bridges around here. And in this case, is this a CN bridge, or is this a VW bridge, or is this a St. Thomas bridge that's being built? Thanks.
Mr. Lawrence?
That's a good question, because that that relates to who pays in the future for maintenance and liability. In this case, the purple line on your image, so virtually everything that separates off the CN line is owned by St. Thomas. So St. Thomas owns the spur line and owns the bridge, which goes over the major arterial road. So the spur, the bridge, and then in the future also the yard is owned by St. Thomas. So all those assets will be owned by St. Thomas.
Counselor Clark, then Counselor Peters.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just in the sentence just before the heading financial considerations, it says discussions have been progressing with CN staff will report back once a connection agreement has been reached. When we would deal with, for example, or labor contracts, they come back for us for ratification. And, you know, even looking at some of these contracts, it's before us now for approval. Will we be part of the discussion before that agreement is ratified? I'm just wondering what the timelines would look like, or what our input would look like based on the amount of correspondence we got recently with questions around two lines and similar to Councillor Herbert's question about rival railroads and things like that.
Mr. Lawrence?
This agreement in itself is quite a simple one. It basically says that CN gives St. Thomas the right to make a connection. So there's a Y connection, and St. Thomas agrees to pay for all the work beyond that point. So St. Thomas pays and builds the spur, the bridge, the yard. CN just gives us the right to make a single turnout connection onto their line. That's the extent of what this agreement is. However, I'm fine to do a double report back to council if you like to see the draft terms well in advance of us signing the agreement, and then bring the final report after that.
Counselor Peters?
Thanks, Worship. Well, I want to go back to the Ontario Southland / CP line. So we're going to have an influx of new trains coming in as a result of PowerCo and any of their suppliers. There's nothing proposed to do anything about Centennial Ave. So we're going to continue to have backup at Centennial, not only the existing traffic because of format, but now existing traffic because of this. When you travel from this site where this new proposed connection is to follow the line back to what I call the old LMPS, it takes 10 crossings. Everything from Centennial all the way to Hughes Street into Flora. So that's 10 crossings that get potentially blocked. Plus we've got a $14 million cost. We would have one crossing at Ron McNeil, probably wouldn't have to put in a $14 million bridge and service the site from the north. It just, to me, doesn't make a lot of sense. I hear the old adage, we're not engineers, but I just think that with all the money that's being invested in this, that the northern route has potential option. I'm concerned as well too that why are the tracks only a curve into the site? Why wouldn't we have a curve going eastbound as well too? Because it's pretty short stretch from Centennial to where these tracks are going to be going north. Again, with switching, potential to cause more blockage. At least Yarmouth Center Road, blocking Yarmouth Center Road at times isn't as bad. So I'd like to know about that. And just that one map, Yarmouth Rail Yards, Rail Spur and Bridge. And maybe the final plans are done, just trying to understand the internal rail connections. It almost looks like there's an east-west line, but I'm not sure of that. But my last question, Your Worship, or comment to you is CN wants this really bad. CN is obviously going to get a very good contract out of this. Can we use this as an opportunity to squeeze CN on Barwick Street Bridge, on Station Street, and a host of other things around the city that we need CN to deal with? Is this an opportunity to extract something from CN. But I'm curious, you've got my comments, and you and you and I've had this conversation over a month ago about this, but I look forward to hearing it again.
Number of questions, Mr. Lawrence. Let's see how you do.
I'm afraid I haven't logged all of them. Give me them one at a time. if you wouldn't mind.
Blocking 10 crossings versus blocking 1 crossing. You know, tying ourselves to CN versus tying ourselves to CP. Why the layout of the tracks, only 1 Y in? Why wouldn't we have another Y going eastbound? And you can disregard my CN comments. And what sort of internal thing is this going to look like?
Okay, so in terms of the direction, it's my understanding that both CN and CP come from the west. So the trains, it's correct. The current trains cross through the city, and any added volume would add to the cross product of the delay on all those intersections. There's no question. Maybe when St. Thomas is, many hundreds of thousands of people larger, we could talk about grade separating, and you'd start with the biggest roads first and you grade separate. CP has the same issue as it comes across the city. It comes on the same track that crosses the city. So I'm not sure that makes a difference. Answering the why question is the same reason. So if the trains come from the west, there's only a need to bring them from the west into the site, and then the reverse direction to go. There's no reason to go easterly on the CN rail. There's no destination that we know of right now. If there is, then they can simply back onto the track and go to the east. And then the final thing is the layout inside the subdivision. The layout is a single Y to the bridge. And then you can see it if you look on page 2. It basically stays as a single track, and it splits into an inbound and outbound and a runaround. That's for basically CN to drop, or whoever their short line operators to drop cars. The city would then own storage tracks, so 2 sets of 4 that are about 500 meters long, and those could operate as storage for possible intermodal to suppliers in the subdivision, or the reverse, so product from the subdivision into the intermodal and out from that direction. So they're city-owned, city-controlled. From those storage yards, there's a line that then curves up and into the PowerCo site. So that line, the ownership stops at the boundary. So inside the PowerCo site owned by PowerCo, outside owned by the city.
Did you get enough of them, or you have? Good. Further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Are there any opposed? That is carried.
Your worship, unless the members have any further items for this committee, we'll now move into corporate governance and administration. First item relates to Yarmouth Yard site tour by Fanshawe College. I have a motion that report ES 1924 relating to the Fanshawe College Yarmouth Yard site tour be received for information, and further the council waive transit fares and authorize the additional supply of 2 rental buses for the purpose of providing Yarmouth Yard site tours to students from the St. Thomas Fanshawe College campus. Moved by Councillor Baldwin Sands, seconded by Councillor Macaulay.
Questions or comments? Councillor Baldwin Sands.
Thank you. I am very pleased and to see that this report is here, and very pleased that Fanshawe College is taking this initiative, and very pleased again that the city is going to be partnering with them on this project. I think it's great news for everyone. Thank you.
Further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Unless there are any further items from the members for this committee, council will now reconvene into regular session. I have a motion that the recommendations, directions, and actions of council and committee of the whole, as recorded in the minutes of this date, be confirmed, ratified, and adopted. Moved by Councillor Wilkie, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
No reports of committees this evening. We now move into petitions and communications. First item is a request for a proclamation and flag raising from Beta Sigma Phi. I have motioned that Council of the City of St. Thomas proclaim April 22nd to the 29th, 2024 as Beta Sigma Phi Week in the City of St. Thomas, and further that the Beta Sigma Phi Week flag be flown at City Hall from April 22nd to April 29th, 2024. And further that a flag raising ceremony be held at City Hall on April 22nd, 2024 at 11 a.m. Moved by Councillor Wookie, second by Councillor Herbert.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item is a request for a proclamation and flag raising from the Canadian Mental Health Association. I have a motion that Council of the City of St. Thomas proclaim May 6th to 12th, 2024 as Canadian Mental Health Week in the City of St. Thomas, and further that the Canadian Mental Health Week flag be flown at City Hall from May 6th to 12th, 2024, and further that a flag raising ceremony be held at City Hall on May 6th at 10 a.m. Moved by Councillor Gibson, seconded by Councillor Wookie.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item is a request for a letter of no objection for the Summerfest event. I have a motion that Council of the City of St. Thomas has no objection to the Summerfest and other events being held in the proposed extended licensed area at 285 Wellington Street on June 21st and 22nd, 2024. Moved by Councillor Clark. Second by Councillor Wookie.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next is a request for a proclamation for the month of May. And this is relating to GBS and CIDP Foundation of Canada. I have a motion that Council of the City of St. Thomas proclaim May 2024 as CBS and CIDP Awareness Month in the City of St. Thomas. I didn't move in a second. Moved by Councillor McCauley, second by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next three items are for information. First, application has been made to the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario by the Icebox for a liquor license for the outdoor area at the Douglas J. Terry Sports Complex at 275 Bill Martin Parkway. Council may make representation to the commission concerning this application. Next item, a letter has been received from Elgin St. Thomas Coalition to End Poverty regarding the coalition's 2023 timeline of success document. The last item under petitions is notice received from Industrial Development Division and Arcadis of the completion of the municipal class environmental assessment study relating to a major arterial road connection between Centennial Avenue and Yarmouth Center Road. Your worship, unless the members have any items under petitions.
Councillor Clark.
Just wanted to congratulate St. Joseph's High School on their recent victory. The boys hockey team were the Ontario champions for this year. They recently won 5-1 over East Lambton in the week just after March break in Whitby, Ontario.
Congratulations. Councillor Baldwin Sands.
Thank you. I hope that we will be seeing the St. Joe's hockey team at a future council meeting. Councillor Clark, is that a possibility that we could send an invitation to fill out an application?
We look forward to the nomination. Any other, was that, or we an unfinished or new or?
We were in petitions, your worship, but now if there's no further items here, we'll move into unfinished business of council.
Councillor Baldwin Sands. I wanted to make sure we didn't skip through it. Go ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate your remembering. First, I would like to thank Councillor Herbert because he brought to the attention of all members of council in the provincial budget that was recently announced that there is a new stream of funding of $200 million for community centers across the province. Now, keeping in mind that there are 444 municipalities plus the province of Toronto in that the community center with the aquatic facility did meet again on March the 27th. And we are promising to meet every other week in order to get our work to council as soon as we possibly can. That being said, last year, in hopes to look at possible funding streams, I asked for staff direction, provided staff direction on vacant land tax as a possibility as a form of funding. And this was also encouraged in the provincial budget announcement, not necessarily for community centers, but as municipalities.
Yep.
A tourism tax under possibility, and a vacant building tax. And I would also like to add to that direction of staff that we also consider using the money from Jackpot City Gaming as a possible revenue stream for operating. So we could have capital and operating streams of funding for proposed, at least in principle, put together with that report that's coming forward to council.
Great. Thank you, Councillor Herbert.
Thank you, Worship. I think we're all in favor of community center, but one of the key components of the community center is finding a location to put it on. And I don't know what we need to do that. I mean, do we have a spot or do we need to talk to people or? I mean, we got to have that before we can start building.
Thank you. I'll hand it back to Councillor Baldwin says, but we have a committee that is to be doing that as part of our strategic planning. But this council, of course, will make final decisions on anything like that. Councillor
Correct.
Baldwin says?
We are exploring those options as we speak. And we are, as I said, meeting on a more regular basis in order to bring that report to council, including site locations. Thank you.
Super.
Appreciate
Thank
the
you.
question.
And thank you to the committee for its work. Any other new business? Councillor Wookie.
Thanks, your worship. I just was hoping this one goes to the clerk that the fire chief be included in the reporting for the container ship. That we get his commentary regarding that, as well, of course, as the chief building official. Thank you.
Yeah, we said staff, but that will include that now that you've mentioned it for sure. Anything else? Well, I've got a couple. One is, of course, we already talked about the pilot project and the new bus service starting on April 8th in the morning. And as I said, I think I do plan to take my $5 each way and go out and make my way and see what the route looks like. And really to try and talk up usage. This will really work for our community to have a connection to London if we use it. And if we have a lot of ridership doing it, we'll certainly find the buses to do more. Another thing that's happening next Monday, the 8th, and before council meeting is the total eclipse. And we've been talking a lot about it. I've been doing some interviews. We all have our glasses. We need to make sure that all know both the dangers and the excitement of having a total eclipse pass over us. So I wanted to make sure we did talk about it tonight at council. The actual total part of the eclipse is maybe 3.5 minutes long, but there's about a 2-hour window of partial eclipse through partial eclipse. We will have we've been talking a lot we talked with the fire chief about the emergency measures needed because of the amount of traffic that's expected to be in our community and in our county next Monday to come to see one of the best spots in Canada in which to see the eclipse. So we ask all of those to be careful, be knowledgeable that the roads will be very busy. There'll be a lot of people coming here. We are not yet open for the summer in most of the county in the sense that washrooms on the beach and other things. So we're trying to tell as many people as we can ahead of time to prepare snacks and prepare yourself for that period of the day. Spread yourselves out as much as you can. And here in the city of St. Thomas, expect the traffic to be exceptionally busy that day. And we certainly hope that also helps some of our local St. Thomas business have a really good Monday also. But so to the folks at home, take care, be careful, follow the vision rules of watching a total eclipse, but also watch for the traffic, be respectful of your other citizens. It will be a very busy day in our neighborhood. Councillor Herbert?
Thank you, Worship. It was brought up by Dr. Tran at our last public health meeting that it's imperative that you use the glasses that are provided, because it can be very dangerous if you don't.
Right.
And there was a comment by one of the mayors that he knew a bunch of welders that were going to use the welding glasses that they
Right.
weld with. They said, no, it will not do the trick. It's not, there's a certain gauge it has to be and it doesn't meet it. So very interesting, I thought, comment. So
Well, and they're certainly not as glamorous as the other glasses. Thank you. Any other new business? There is a fundraiser at the Queso Station on Friday night, comedy show. I've been preparing for the last couple of weeks. I'm the MC for that event and have some fairly good comedy written, and I sure know there are tickets left over. Please help out your local fundraiser, and I expect heckling from this group, but I've gotten used to it. That is all I have for new business.
Thank you, Your Worship. Seeing no further new business from the members, we'll now move into bylaws. I have a motion that leave be granted to bring in the bylaws. Moved by Councillor Peters, seconded by Councillor Clark.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
I have a motion by Councillor Peters, seconded by Councillor Clark, that the bylaws be now read a first time, referred to council and committee of the whole, and read a second time.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
First bylaw, please.
First bylaw is a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council meeting held on the second day of April, 2024.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carries. Next bylaw, please.
Second bylaw is a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute and affix the seal of the corporation to a certain agreement between the city and JEG Home Solutions, Inc. This relates to Heritage Facade and Building Improvement Loan Agreement under the Community Improvement Program for the property at 539 Talbot Street.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? That carries. Next bylaw, please.
Third and final bylaw is a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute and affix the seal of the corporation to a certain agreement between the city and JEG Home Solutions, Inc. This relates to a residential loan agreement under the Community Improvement Program for the property at 539 Talbot Street.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? That carries unanimously. I rise and report the successful passing of the three bylaws.
Great.
I have a motion by Councillor Peters, seconded by Councillor Clark, that the report of council and committee of the whole on the three bylaws be received and adopted. The same be read a third time, engrossed, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed and numbered.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next order of business is public notice. Two notices this evening. The first notice is hereby provided that a public meeting will be held on April 8th, 2024 at 6 p.m. by Zoom regarding a proposed bylaw amendment to consider an exemption under the Retail Business Holidays Act for Railway City Brewing at 130 Edward Street and Capsoft Brewing Company at 168 Curtis Street for the two companies to open on Good Friday and Easter Monday. The second item, notice is hereby provided that administration intends to introduce a report at the April 15th, 2024 council meeting requesting approval of an unbudgeted capital expenditure relating to the replacement of transit vehicles. No notices of motion this evening. Your worship, there is a need to move into closed session. I have a motion that this meeting be closed to deal with a proposed or pending disposition of land and two matters of a position plan procedure criteria or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality. Moved by Councillor Baldwin-Sands, seconded by Councillor McCauley.
Before we move into voting on going to closed session, I'll share what we share each week. We will be moving into closed session now. Council will not come back to open session except to adjourn our meeting for this evening. And we thank you for coming tonight and observing and watching us tonight. And we'll see you again next week. So all in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you.